Once I graduated with my management degree, I think I joined. I don't know how many of you know LB UPS. It was a courier company based out of Bombay. The lure of joining this company was that it was based in Nariman Point, one of the business centers that I wanted to be in. And in their pre-placement talk, they had more aircrafts than British Airways and Lufthansa put together, and great innovative technology behind their operations. They were tracking consignments as they were moving around the country, and that was a very strong innovation at that point of time. What I learned after joining this company was that I need to brush up my Hindi very quickly. Coming from South, you can understand that Hindi was not Hindi was not my strength. We only studied Hindi maybe in class 6 and 7. That's about it. And suddenly I was in Bombay and I had to do the initial conversations are all in Hindi. And that was my first learning, saying that, look, I need to brush up my Hindi really, really quickly if I were to be successful doing this marketing job. Along with that, the other learning was that however strong your product proposition is, you need to have an art of first winning the receptionist who was sitting at the table, because she was the one who was allowing you to meet the administration manager or the business manager. And unless you're successful in getting your appointment from her, it is you don't crack business, right? So great learnings. I spent about a year with this company and launched some products for the international market called Charge Collect, where one can send the sample to US, but ask the other party, the receiving party, to pay for the consignment. Very successful. I switched after a year to Arvind Mills. Arvind Mills at that point of time was a company which was in deep red. Sanjay Lalbhai, coming out of Bajaj Institute of Management, was looking at turning around the company, and he was actually looking at denim as the product that will turn around the fortunes of Arvind. The first 2 years post he launched denim, he was super unsuccessful. It was a super flop, and he looked at how can he revive his dream, and he recruited Mr. Govind Mirchandani, and Govind Mirchandani told him that, look, it is very difficult to make this successful sitting out of Ahmedabad, so he needs to build a team in Bombay. So that's how Arvind built a team in Bombay under the company name of Cornerstone Brands Limited. And he hired management professionals, not textile engineers. A few of them were textile engineers plus management professionals, but he was okay to not recruit me without a textile engineering background. My first exposure, so it was a startup then. And when I left the company in 2001, after 10 years, Arvind from a startup had become the second or third largest manufacturer of denim in the world, right? Such was the brilliance of Arvind and Arvind's performance in those 10 years. My first experience in Arvind was Dharavi Market. They sent me to Dharavi Market, and I was wondering that did I join the right company? And Dharavi, at that point of time, and even today, is the largest slum in Mumbai. And that was my experience before I ventured into Dharavi. As I got into Dharavi, I realized it is the biggest industrial estate in Bombay. Right? I don't know how much of you have had a glimpse of watching any of the documentaries on Dharavi. It is an industrial superhouse. All the bags, wallets, belts, ladies' handbags, school bags, much of it gets manufactured out there, right? And so that was my first exposure. My other exposure was to do concept selling. There were so many entrepreneurs, but who are not manufacturing jeans. So can you believe today, most of you wear jeans, and jeans is the largest share of apparel market. in India or anywhere in the world. In India, at that point of time, there was no market for jeans. There were only two brands, Wrangler and Buffalo, who were selling their jeans. Otherwise, there's no market. And we had the task of setting up brands. So convincing companies to invest in manufacture of brands and getting them to success. If you know Killer as a brand, it was one of the most successful brands in India, which is owned by Keval Kiran and Company. And Keval Bhai, when I first met him, he was a tailor by named Karamchand next to Kabuta Khana in Dadar, right? And today his company is valued at 2,000 crores plus. So it was great for me to be part of the evolution and the journey of most of these denim brands in the country. I also got an opportunity to join two most innovative projects Arvind did during my career of 10 years. That is why I didn't leave Arvind, in fact, because after 4 years, we conceptualized a concept called Rough and Tough Ready to Stitch. That was a time when India had started accepting ready-mades, but mostly in top wear and bottom wear, we were still trying to get our bottom stitched. And we had an opportunity to say that, look, how can we get the local tailors stitch jeans? There was a mental block there. The tailor was thinking that jeans, denim fabrics being thicker than the normal fabric, he cannot stitch, or he didn't understand the art of stitching. So Rough and Tough is a concept where a commodity, we branded it and made it into a consumer product, advertised it through Akshay Kumar, and we went to every taluka, set up tailor conferences. And in those tailor conferences, we educated the tailor that, look, he can stitch a pair of jeans in less than 20 minutes. In the tailor conference, the first tailor was measured, and there was a tailor sitting at the side of the tailor conference, stitching while the conference is on. And in 20 minutes, he demonstrated that he could stitch a pair of jeans. And it required 2 alterations to his machine, and we made those available at 100 rupees. And so we actually built a huge business around Rough and Tough Ready to Stitch. Then when we saw there was a great demand for Rough and Tough jeans, which are ready-made, we came out with the concept saying that, yes, we will also make now Rough and Tough jeans. And we went to Sanjay Lal Bhai saying that, look, here is a project, we want to make Rough and Tough jeans, and this is an investment that we would want you to make. He said, look, there is no money. I'm extremely sorry, because the entire investment is going in the textile plants that you are setting up in Santej and Kathraj. And he said, if I love the idea, only if you can find a way of figuring out how the investments will come in, who will fund the idea, I'm willing to give it a go. So that's the time when we were thinking as to how we can set up the business, and we looked at Coke. Coke had great distribution in India, but no investment in any of the manufacturing setups. So they had bottlers, and bottlers did the investment for them. And so we said, okay, this is the model that we'll go with. So we were able to identify and convince 10 entrepreneurs across India to be able to set up state-of-the-art manufacturing facility to manufacture Rough and Tough jeans. So we actually sold the cheapest branded jeans in the country at 299 rupees. And within a year, we became the largest denim brand in the country. So great experience of how one can think out of box in everything. Manufacturing, because 24 hours we were able to manufacture cut to pack, completely integrated unit, and therefore washing was also done within the plant, and therefore it is cut to market within 24 hours. We were able to make it the cheapest possible cost, because we were controlling the entire cost from fabric to end product. We were also selling through FMCG distributors who were used to operate at the lowest margins. We appointed more of Hindustan Lever and P&G distributors. It was everything was a first in Indian fashion industry. Nobody had done it before, and nobody was even thinking of it before, and neither anybody has followed up after that for this business model. So great 11 years with Arvind, learned a lot. Then made a shift to Globus. Retail at that time was a sunrise industry, and I was really wanted to again try my luck with another startup, and this was a startup. So initially for 2 years, I was heading the merchandising, because the CEO at that point of time, when I met him, he said, "You may be a national head of business for Arvind, but you don't have any store management experience. So I cannot give you a head of operations title. But because you know all the brands in the fashion industry, I can then give you a role of merchandising." So I took the role of merchandising for a year and a half. And by the time he was convinced that, look, I was the guy for him to build and expand the network of Globus stores from 3 to 25. So that's what I did. We were trying to be the Zara of India. And there was a time in the company where we had a dichotomy of what will come first: first expansion and scale, or first profitability. I think that's a place where we got stuck. And that's when I decided to move to Shoppers Stop. When I joined in 2008, they were already almost 18 years into business. And in 18 years in the business, they had acquired one tag. That tag which market gave them was slowest retailer. Because Kishore Biyani by that time was expanding the format of big bazaars like crazy, pantaloons like crazy. And therefore he was emulated, or he was given the title of retail king. And worse, in comparison to him, we felt Shoppers Stop is something which is growing very slowly. But Shoppers Stop had its own strengths. Mr. Nagesh, who's the promoter, CEO, right? The founding CEO, not a promoter CEO. He's a founding CEO. Now, as a founding CEO, he had built the company with excellent foundation. He was instrumental in building a strong customer-centric culture in Shoppers. Very strong ethics. Shoppers Stop got rewarded for the best published or detailed books of accounts. Believed in process orientation, and therefore had a very strong SOP orientation across the company. Great value for people. And so this is a company that I joined in 2008. And you know what happened in 2008, right? Till 2008, Shoppers Stop was a very profitable company. And in 2008, when I joined, Lehman Brothers happened in US, and economy was going down the drain. And Shoppers made the highest loss in the history of Shoppers Stop. 68 crores loss. Was it a problem or an opportunity? If you look at from one lens, you can say that, look, here comes a new head of operations, and every store is actually showcasing the worst ever performance. And I'm responsible for it. And for me, the way to look at was, this is the greatest opportunity. And how do we work towards turning around the company and bringing back to profitability? When the going gets tough, they will give 200% to the company to turn around, and they will be the most loyal, passionate, driven force that you would ever want to have. So great experience, and I'm very happy this year, Kalyan, for the Flipkart group has adopted the same approach. Kalyan, a month back, made a statement to the press saying that nobody in Flipkart group will lose their job this year and all their increments will happen on time. So basically saying that, look, this is a tough year. We understand we will have to go through this. There is a pain. Both of us will go through it together and we will emerge winners. This is a time that we will stand behind you, the staff. So, so what really happened? Shoppers was able to grow from 22 stores when I joined in 2008 to about 85 stores when I left. We were able to also have roughly about 100 plus crossword bookstores. We had about 100 plus Estee Lauder brand outlets for Mac, Clinique, Bobbi Brown, etc. And we also had shops in around 7 airports around the country. We built a business of 3,500 crore and Shoppers never made losses post 2009, even till the time I left about 2016. And so this brand gave me an opportunity to manage about 20,000 plus team members who are directly or indirectly working for Shoppers Stop. It gave me an opportunity to understand the levers of profitability and how to manage a turnaround. It helped me with an opportunity to understand how large teams function, how do you inspire them remotely, how do you empower them, and how do you use matrix processes, matrix organizations to deliver results. It also told me that if you think every problem and every opportunity from a customer's standpoint, thinking about the customer in the room, you will end up making the right decisions. And if you're also able to back that decision with some data and insight, your decision is going to become even better. Post Shoppers in 2016, I joined Myntra. And as you know, Myntra, when I left Shoppers, Shoppers was #1 departmental store in the country with a turnover of in excess of 3,500 crores and profitable. Myntra, as you know, at that point of time was a part of Flipkart group. It is a fashion vertical and it was leading in premium fashion retail. My role in Flipkart group is building fashion brands because we believe that India has not seen great brands built from within the country. India has, most of the successful brands in India are today licensed brands which are done by Indian fashion houses, and very few Indian brands have made it big. So I got an opportunity to use the art of digital brand building to build the largest fashion house in the country and build brands which are national in stature and being in the top 5 at the national scale. And this is what I do for Myntra. When I joined Myntra, I looked at the kind of youth, kind of talent which works here, right? Because I was working for traditional companies. When I shifted to a technology company, which is Myntra, because the vision of Myntra was to drive to make this world a colorful and happier place using technology. And so technology was the foundation of everything that we do in Myntra. And if you look at the quality of manpower, the young and the bright people who work around Myntra, it actually gave me a very important and great insights how to work with them, how to collaborate with them, and how to learn from them, and how to imbibe the technology in the area of my expertise, which is building fashion brands. There is a great dichotomy whether fashion is a science or fashion is an art. And this dichotomy exists for every fashion professional. And even today, world over, most of them believe that fashion is art and not a science. But working for a technology company, I would say that you have to imbibe both. Today, you have artificial intelligence, machine learning tools, computer vision tools, which are available, which can give you great insight into customer journey, customer taste, the trends which are happening across the world, because people expose these trends through social media, and it is easier for you to capture these trends and figure out what is happening around the world. And the data, we all say data is the new oil, and the kind of data that we churn in Myntra or in any internet company is very, very valuable, because it gives you great insights into the customer journey, and it will help you to take the right decision, as I said, keeping customer in mind. So while the art is about imagining consumer and creating something through imagination, the art of science is all about understanding the consumer behavior, what the consumer likes today, what the consumer is likely to like tomorrow, and making sure that what the consumer is wanting to have is made available to him at the shortest possible time, using faster manufacturing technologies and getting him at the merchandise at speed. So this is what I learned in Myntra. And the other thing that I learned in Myntra, being an endless aisle, what technology can do to help you to improve speed in everything. Speed in bringing the product to market, speed in getting to the consumer, speed in taking his reactions, speed in your ability to influence volumes, ability to change directions. The speed at which anything and everything which is done in Myntra is 5x, 10x of what is done in the physical offline economy, which I was part of earlier. So, we have a joke around in office which says that, look, if you spend a year in Myntra, which is equivalent of spending 3 years with any other offline retailer or a brand partner, because that's the way you tend to work. That's the way you tend to bring life into you. It's a great learning, very, very energizing experience. And the results you are able to drive are, it's very, very difficult to achieve them in the old age economy or the offline world or the Indian way of building brands. So the digital economy has changed dramatically. And today, when you look at marketing, for example, the way I was exposed to marketing, for any brand marketing, we were looking at about 80% marketing, which is happening through the traditional media. The traditional media, I mean the newspaper, the hoardings, the televisions, commercials, and the likes, right? The direct mailers, emailers. and 10% was happening through digital, right? But when we are looking at currently the digital economy, or the way we are building brands digitally on Myntra, I'm spending almost 80% of my resources on digital advertising, and maybe about 10 to 20% of it in the conventional local media. So that's the way we differentiate ourselves. Even if you look at the consumers that we address to, the Myntra is able to serve the new generation, which is millennials, Gen Z, much, much, much better than the offline channels, because these consumers are born with gadgets. They are connected to internet and technology like no one else. And if you look at the quality of time that they spend using these technologies, we understand that, you know, connecting to them or talking to them digitally makes a lot of sense. You are able to connect faster. And if you understand them right and design stuff for them right, because they look at their definition of brand is very, very different. Their definition of value is very, very different, right? And if you are catering to the needs of those consumers very differently, you have a very successful brand that you can create.